Hello everybody, and welcome to another Fundamental Games game playthrough. Today we're going to play a game of Fray, Champions of the Everyverse. This game is about to go on Kickstarter. It's actually not available for public play just yet, but that could change. This tabletop simulator may or may not get released to the public, and you may see some other videos from content creators out there. But I just had the fun of being able to put this together on the digital play surface that you see here and give it a whirl. So let's describe to you what Fray is. Fray is an arena combat game set in the Everyverse. As a player, you're going to take control of powerful champions, and those champions are going to battle against each other to find out who is the strongest. From the plains of Desolation Valley to the jungles of Amazonia, champions are sent to represent these realms, and your job is to lead these champions to glory and rise above the fray. Alright, so what's in the box? Well, we've got all kinds of D20s. I believe there's 12 included with the game. There are D4s, and then there are some custom D6s, and then some custom D6s. So we'll just kind of zoom through some of these components before we get right into gameplay here. So these custom dice are going to be used for battle and for damage, and keep in mind that some of these may change slightly, or I may have them misrepresented slightly, but for the most part they should be what's in the game. So the 6-sided dice has 4, 6, and 8 damage. The battle dice have boots, shields, and axes. There's a scatter die with just an arrow that helps randomize direction, and that's it for the dice. There are tokens to help represent bonuses and penalties that your character may acquire. There's some battle die tokens that can be used to carry over your battle dice roll, and all kinds of beautiful cards. These are all item cards, so there's 4 of each of these. They'll get shuffled into one whole deck as we play, but you can see there's goggles and wrenches and tridents and axes, and some of this stuff may be in the arena. You may get one to start with, and you may acquire them throughout your duels. And then there's all kinds of characters, and they each come with a fancy miniature, but I don't have those miniatures for the tabletop simulator, so I'm representing with standees for each of these characters. And one of the interesting things about the game is they've got 2 different versions of the characters. One is for single player, which means just 1 against 1, and one is for team play. So depending on whether you're playing team or single play, you'll play with one side or the other for the game, and that just helps smooth out the game a bit more for multiplayer versus playing 1 versus 1. Although you could have 2-player game where each player plays 2 champions. Just wanted to make sure that they gave you the option to play 1 character each if you wish. You can see here a low-res image of the actual miniatures that would come with the game. 12 in total, each representing a different archetype. So those will be available, and you'll see them in all their glory on the Kickstarter page. So kind of a brief rundown is we're going to choose our champion, we're going to deploy our champions and begin. We're going to roll battle dice and do movements, use different champion attacks, draw on items, and try to smite our foes to emerge victorious. Alright, so first off, I am going to just group together everything I don't need, get it off the tabletop here, and just get it all together so that you don't have to see me play with it all. So we'll get all these, group it together, put all that to the side, and move this away. Oops. If I don't freeze the game on me. I think I confused it there for a minute. Alright, so we're going to take all this away. We don't need any of this stuff right now. And then we're going to play with, his name is Golga, the gladiator, is going to be dueling Trilug, the orc. So we'll just put these mono a mono across from each other. We'll get these out of the way, and our standees are already on the battlefield, so we'll just move this stuff out of the way completely. Alright. And I'm going to go through the gameplay setup right out of the rulebook so you can hear me have a combat experience right out of the rules. After I grab all of these items cards, group them together, and form the item deck. Shuffle it up. Put that here. Alright. So, goal of the game. The goal of the game is to eliminate all of your opponents, champions, and be the last team. In this case, we're just playing 1 against 1. So in single mode, as it's called, that name may change, but that's what it is right now. We're each going to have a single character, and their abilities are slightly different, and that is going to be on the gold side. So the gold side is single, the maroonish reddish side is team play. So we've got that set up. Alright, once we've selected our champions, we then roll a die. Starting in descending order, the highest roll goes first. So we'll roll a d6 for each of these characters, and whoever rolls highest will be the starting player. So we roll, and it looks like Golga is going to be playing first. Alright. Normally the starting player we get to choose their champion first, but I already pre-decided what I wanted to fight. Alright. And they have to be deployed on one of the 4 sides. I chose to deploy them across from each other, so you can see these little edges of the arena are where you start, anywhere in these 4 tiles here. Okay. Each champion must always occupy a single square. It can be placed on any square within that deployment zone. We set up the arena, we shuffle and set up the item event cards, scatter die, damage die, and battle die. So each player is going to get 2 of each battle token for each champion that they're playing with. So for example here, we're going to have 2 battle tokens. That doesn't mean that they're usable right now, it just means that that's the maximum that they could have of those. And to make things easy, I'm just going to copy these and bring them over to Golga. Alright, so Golga now has those as well. Then we need a 6-sided die for each player, which we have. We need a hit die for each player. So a hit die is represented by the d20. Each player is going to start with a value of 20 on their hit die. So we're going to copy this, and we'll give Golga here that d20 as his own hit die. So they both have their own hit die, and we're going to actually lock these boards in just so I don't flip them over by mistake and ruin the hit die. There, boards are locked in. And then a champion card and model, which we already have in place. Select the deployment area, which we've done. Set the loot token, which is this here, in the center of the battlefield, and that is going to move over time. So that's done. We're going to take a look at the champion card here. So each champion card contains stats and abilities as well as some background information. So they have an initiative modifier, you can see that. Trilug has a 0 initiative modifier. They have a save stat, which is what you're going to roll when you get attacked. Yeah, kind of like a defense or a dodge mechanic. And then they have a move characteristic, which is how many tiles they can move in a single round, single turn. Then you can see there's a spot for token 1 and token 2. So that's where if you save over battle tokens that you've rolled from one turn to the next, you can store them there, keeping in mind that they disappear that next turn. And then we have an attack type. So you can see here that Trilug has a killing frenzy. Once per game after damaging the enemy champion, he can act again. He also has a 2-axe option. Might makes right. He can make a melee attack against the enemy champion, and they get a -1 to their save. Or he has strength rules, so he needs 2 axes and a shield to resolve that attack. And then there's a little bit of story about the character. A destroyer of men and a bringer of death, and more you can read on there. And he's faced off against Golga, who has an initiative +1, save of 4, move of 5. He has an ability called Give Them What They Want, in which he can appease the watchers with an entertaining flourish, so he must be some kind of gladiator. He has the ability to unleash hell, and he has a backbreaker move. And the watchers have brought Golga to the arena in the Grand Center to test his mettle against the other champions, and a little bit more. Okay, there we are. There are different type of attack types in the game. There's a melee attack, a short range attack, and a long attack. I think we are in a battle of just melee attacks, but there are characters that have bow and arrow or gun or other kind of options in there. We just don't have those this time. This is kind of like a miniature skirmish game, but it's meant to be fast and less rules heavy so that you can get in a game at a much easier state of play. And so it does allow for diagonal movement, which is the equivalent of lateral movement. So in many miniatures games, this might count as 2 moves. In this game, a diagonal move is 1. So you can save yourself time by moving diagonal. You can also attack diagonal. Alright, the play area is this giant board you see in front of you. It's 22 inches by 22 inches when it's in the unfolded board state in the real game. And movement is comprised by moving on a series of squares. Each square is 1 movement. Alright, you cannot move on or through a non-squared or incomplete section of the board. So these little squares in the corners, you actually can't treat that as a square. They are impassable. In each round we're going to have an initiative phase and then a champion phase. An initiative phase in which we establish a sequence of play for the heroes or the champions, and each of those players will then take an item phase and a champion phase. So let's roll up the initiative phase. In the first round, each player may designate a champion to lead the round. We only have 1 champion, so we'll be designating those. Each player will roll a 6-sided die. So we roll 6-sided die. We've got Golga the Mighty with a 6. Poor Trilug only has a 1. Now, Golga could add his initiative modifier, but he doesn't need to. He's already got a 6 and he knows he beat Trilug, so he could save that for next turn. Players will then take their turns in starting order with the player who scored the highest. There are initiative tokens that come with the game, so there's a 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can pass those out, but with only 2 players, it's not really necessary here. And we're going to take turns from highest to lowest. It does say the same champion cannot be selected to lead the round 2 rounds in a row, so if your team won initiative, you may have to change sequencing, so just keep that in mind. Now we're on to player's turn. So since Golga won initiative, Golga will be going first. Again, at the start of the game, each player is supposed to get 1 item card per champion that they have, so each of our players has 1 item card. So you can see here Golga has a Herald's Axe, and it's a card you'd hold in your hand, and it allows an instant action to force an opponent to re-roll a successful save roll. So if my opponent dodges my attack, I can play the axe to make him have to roll again. So initial draw only occurs on the first turn. Anytime you want to get loot cards after that, you have to draw it through a champion ability or in the loot phase by being close enough to the loot token. I think you have to be within 3 squares of that loot token to acquire loot at the end of the round. Item cards may only be played in the item phase unless otherwise noted. So some cards, maybe this one here, that's an instant as well, but there's cards in here that are not instant that you can only play in the item phase. But as an instant, you can play it whenever the card indicates. So we've done the item phase. There's nothing I need to do there. Then we move on to the champion phase. The first thing I get to do is roll battle dice. So I'm going to take these 3 battle dice, and again, for the sake of convenience, I'm going to give each player 3 battle dice, but in the real game, you wouldn't have 3 battle dice each. There's just 3 battle dice for the game itself. So I don't want you to think that there's more components here than there are. That's why I kind of highlighted that at the beginning of the game. But we're going to roll those dice, and whatever those results are is what we have for the round. So you can see if we zoom in here, we have ourselves a shield, an axe, and a boot. So battle dice icons go through. So basically what this means is I could acquire a token, and a token, and I can save up to 2 of those tokens for next turn, or I can just use them on the dice as they are now. So let's say I want to use the boot and save the shield and the axe. Again, I don't have to save them, but I'm going to choose to. And so I get to move as one of my actions. And when you move as many squares as you have on your card, plus if you want to, you can use your boot. So right now it says I can move 5. So I could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to use my boot to move an extra 1. So that is my movement for the round. Alright, and movement does have an impact if you're next to somebody and you try to move away. They may get a press the advantage attack on you unless you're doing a guarded withdrawal. So those are terms in the book, and those may come up in our little gameplay session here, or they may not, but just good for you to know about them. If I have abilities that I wanted to activate, I could. My 2 activations are not impactful right now, so Unleashing Hell is a melee attack. I have to be a square away from the enemy, and a Backbreaker lets you throw somebody. Nice. But again, I'm not close enough to them right now, so I cannot do that action right now. And I don't have any unique abilities at my disposal. I don't have a long-term attack. We're going all in melee combat here. So I stored my unused battle die, and I'm going to move to the next champion. That's all I can do for this turn. So we go to the other champion. He's going to keep his item card. He's going to roll his dice, Trilug. He's got axe, shield, so no bonus movement, and he's only got 4 movement. So he's going to charge, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to do any convoluted maneuvers in this game. We're just going to be going mono a mono. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Gets to move 4. I don't have any additional movement. I can only save 1 of the dice. If I look here, Killing Frenzy doesn't help me move. The Might Makes Right doesn't let me move, and the Strength Rules does not let me move, and none of those of which can I access them at this time. So I'm just going to save an axe and a shield token, and that is all I can do this turn. So this die basically doesn't serve a purpose this round. So we're going to go back to Golga's turn. Oh wait, no, first we have to do the other round in the play. So we did player 1's turn, player 2's turn. Now we have to go to the loot phase. So I will walk you through the loot phase. So to start the match, as we described, the loot was placed in the center of the battlefield. And it's a token, it can be moved, and it will move. But before that, what will happen is each player who has 1 or more champions within 3 squares of the loot counter may draw an item card, 1 item card per player. So because Golga is next to the loot, Golga gets some loot. So we're going to draw that card. The other player doesn't see what he has, but Golga found a gun. Golga found a gun. Now, within 3 squares, so you can see here that our dear Trilug is not fast enough to get to the loot before it moves, so this Hunger Game-esque cornucopia of goods is going to move. So what will happen is we are going to take a d6. We'll take another d6 from this pile of d6s here, and a scatter die. So you'll see how that plays into effect. Where did I put the scatter die? Is here. Alright, so we're going to take both of these, and we're going to roll them to show us where the loot's going to go. So in this case, we're going to move 1 tile this direction. Alright, so whatever direction that little die went is where the loot goes, and the number is how many tiles it goes. So I thought that was kind of neat how I made that work out. When you roll this dice, Tabletop Simulator's probably always going to land that way unless I kind of shake it up like that. But on a real table, it could go in any orientation. There you go, see? So that would move it that direction. So the scatter die does allow complete randomness of where it ends up. Anyhow, that's the loot phase, and we're going to go back to Golga's phase. So at the beginning of Golga's turn, we're going to roll the battle dice. So we can see here we've got boot, shield, plus we've got 2 shields. So I don't have enough to do a backbreaker or an unleash hell maneuver. And I don't think I want to appease anybody with a flourish right now. Let me discard and redraw any or all item cards. Don't really need to do that. So what am I going to do? Well, we're going to charge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just going to get close, use the extra boot for 6. Now, is it wise to get within striking distance of the other player before knowing they even have had their attack or their move? Probably not, but Golga's ready for blood. Now my 2 shields don't serve me much purpose this turn. I do have to return these because they're going unused, which means I'll have 2 shields for the next round that I'm in play. So then we're going to go back to Trilug. Trilug, oh, he sees His opponent is nearby. What is he going to do? Well, of course he's going to go after him, but first he must roll his battle dice. So I put those up there. Really, I should have an axe and a shield token up there. You don't put the dice up there. My apologies. So that's what he saved from last round. He's going to roll his battle dice, and you can see he's got shield, shield, axe. All right. Now I still have a movement of 4, so I can go 1 movement. We're going to go 2 movement. So now I'm directly adjacent, but I could have attacked from diagonal as well. And so that is my movement, part of my turn. But let's go back to turn sequencing, and you'll see what I can do now. I am allowed to roll the battle dice. If I had a companion, they'd have their phase. I'm allowed to move my champion, which I did. I can activate the abilities of my champion and then resolve them. Alright, so I want to activate an ability. I have up to 2 axes and 3 shields at my disposal. So I want to use 2 axes and a shield. I can do the strength rules option. So what this says is I can make a melee attack against the enemy champion. If they fail their save, they're going to resolve the attack at 8 damage without rolling the damage die. That sounds pretty decent to me. So I will use my token, use my axe, use this shield, and I'm going to put the shield token up here because I'll be saving that shield. So now I'm going to resolve my attack. So how does the attack work? Let's walk through it, read right from the guide, make sure I'm doing it correctly. So we've already moved, we're doing an attack. The champion may always choose to make a standard attack against an enemy champion. The type of attack depends on what attack type the champion is making. In this case it's melee. If the champion is capable of making more than one type of attack, the player can choose which type. The cost for a standard attack is just 1 attack icon, so 1 axe. But I'm doing a special attack. Defense. A champion may choose to defend themselves instead of making an attack during their ability phase. That will give them +1 on their save profile until the start of the next turn. So if I wanted to, instead of attacking, I could be on the defensive if I'm really worried and maybe I'm playing 3 characters and just want this one that's down to 1 health to sit back and try to defend. But I'm using a unique ability, and the cost to activate has been paid. I'm spending those dice and tokens, and it says here a champion can make an attack or use an ability against any applicable enemy champion depending on their range. So even though I might be in direct conflict with one opponent, if I have a ranged attack I might shoot somebody that's 5 tiles away instead, so I don't necessarily have to battle the person adjacent to me. That's what it says. So now I'm using my ability, and again, normally I would roll a damage die, but I don't do that because my ability says I'm going to do an automatic 8 damage, which is a pretty significant number. So Golga now must roll some defense. So how does the save work? What it says here is the player whose champion is the target of an attack rolls a d6. So we're going to roll that d6. I didn't get a 6 this time, we just got a 2. If the score is equal to or greater than that champion's save value, so you can see Golga's save value is 4, then they would have deflected the attack, dodged, and the attack would have no effect. But I did not dodge it, I only rolled a 2. So now I would roll for damage. There's no damage to roll for because it was a strength attack made by Trilug, so I'm just going to take 8 damage. Now there is a critical hit option that is supposed to be on the damage die, but I think I neglected to add that, so we're just going to leave that mechanic off right now. But keep in mind there is a critical hit that allows for additional damage. But either way, I failed, so I'm going to be going down 8 points, down to 12. That was a mighty hit from Trilug, but I'm going to get back at him. Oh wait. Force an opponent to reroll a successful save roll. Oh, it says opponent, darn it. And this one used to reroll the result of a damage die, but there was no damage die rolled, so both my items are not useful at this time. So that is okay. Now Trilug could have used his Killing Frenzy if he had enough tokens to do something with, but he doesn't, so we'll choose not to do that. And so Trilug's turn will come to an end with 2 shields at the ready. Alright. going to make sure the tokens can't be used for any other purpose because I don't want to get the game rules wrong, and I might have breezed over the token section earlier. Item phase. Nope, I think we're good there. I think the tokens are only used for actions, so we'll leave that. Trilug is now done his turn, and doesn't look like there's an opportunity for counterattacks, which is good. Maybe there's characters that have that ability, but otherwise, no. So now we're going to go to the loot phase. Both of us are next to the loot, so we're within 3 tiles, so we both get loot. Who gets it first? Probably the person with initiative, but doesn't matter that much. And then we roll the loot dice, and the loot is going to roll that way again, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Go as far as it can go. So there we go. It's moved. That wandering pile of loot could be the secret to winning the game. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next round of battle. So we're going to continue on here. Oh yeah, we got our roll for initiative. So we're going to roll Golga, has a 2. We're going to roll for Trilug, who really wants to go first, has a 4. Trilug has 0 initiative to add. Golga can add 1, but that would only bring him to 3, so he cannot win initiative. So Trilug gets to go first. What is Trilug going to do? Well, first he's going to roll his battle dice. 1, 2, 3. Get these in position. Roll them up. What do we have? Axe, shield, shield. Boy, so the 2 shields aren't going to help us much. You can do a single basic attack. So he'll do that. He'll do a single basic attack while he's right next to his opponent. Actually, he's going to move 1, 2, 3 first, and then he'll do his attack. So he does his attack. He doesn't have to roll to hit, but Golga has to roll to save. So Golga rolls his saving throw. He's got a 2, which is beneath his save of 4, so that's a miss, which means that Trilug gets to roll the damage. Roll the damage. 4 damage will be dealt to Golga, so Golga will be down to 8. Now, again, Golga could have used... Oh, let's put him back up to 12. You can play this helmet. If he plays this helmet, it's an instant reroll a failed save. So he rerolls his d6, has a 5. That's a successful save. He dodges the attack. Alright, so what can we do? Add 2 to my initiative, doesn't matter. A helmet doesn't matter. So that is the end of Trilug's turn. We go back to Golga. Golga is angry. He's going to move over here. He can move up to 5. Well, first we roll these dice here. And we've got boot, boot, axe. Don't really need the extra boots. He wants to stay close to the loot, but he is going to attack. So he attacks, which means Golga will defend with his d6. Golga rolls a 6, which is a save. So what we could do here is force an opponent to re-roll a successful save. Trilug has to re-roll. Roll the 5, which is still a successful save. And nothing that we can do about that. Yeah, because he didn't have 2 axes, he couldn't do the backbreaker. Once per match, no. So we're going to get rid of those, and we're going to keep a boot and a axe for... Oh, we don't have an extra axe, actually. All we can do is keep 2 boots if we really wanted to run away next turn. Okay, and again, I think the boots will be much more interesting if you're playing ranged combat with multiple characters. So that's this round. We're going to do initiative, roll the loot. So we're both next to the loot. We both get a piece of loot. Flip that. Flip that. Then we're going to roll the loot movement dice. Ta-da! The loot is going to go this way 1. If it gets in somebody's way, it keeps going until it's not in their way. So there we go. The loot is in place. And then we are going to roll initiative. Trilug has a 5. This guy has a 2. Trilug doesn't need to use his item. When you use this card, you may draw 2 cards. Instant. Enemy champion is at -1 to the save roll they make. Okay. So now we go to Trilog's turn. Trilog is going to use Redbeard's map, and he gets 2 items when he uses it. So he's using that during his item phase because it's not an instant. It's still his item phase. We've got an instant and an instant. Okay. Trilog is pretty happy where he is, but he'll still move 2. Wait, let's roll those battle dice first. Okay. So we've got an axe and a whole bunch of shields here. Instant, reroll a non-attack battle die this turn. Let's use that. We're going to re-roll this one. There we go, we got an attack die. What's this one? Use when attacked. This one used to re-roll a failed save, gain initiative. None of those need to happen. So might mix right and strength rules. So we could do either of those. We're going to use strength rules attack. So we're going to use all these battle dice up. We're going to run out of these shields anyway. So I attack. Golga gets to defend. Golga rolls. Golga has a 5, which is better than Golga's save, so Golga saves. I cannot stop Golga's save, so that's unfortunate. Now we go to Golga's turn. Golga's happy where they are. They're going to roll their battle dice. Roll. Attack, attack, shield. Ooh, can do a backbreaker. We're going to play Golga's Trident. Enemy champion is at -1 to the save roll they make. So we're going to play that. They get -1 to their save roll. So what's going to happen when we use the backbreaker? Golga throws the champion within 1 square. Scatter target champion d6 squares and roll for save/damage. You know what? I don't really need to throw them. That might be more beneficial if I was surrounded. I can instead unleash hell. Make a melee attack. They get -1 save, and now they get -2 save. So Trilog tries to defend. He does, but he gets -2 save, so he only has a 3, which is a fail, unless he re-rolls. So we could re-roll and try to get a 6. Fail. So now we're going to do some damage. Ooh, 6 damage to Trilog. Oops, should be at 14. Alright. So those two have had their turns. I don't think I did initiative that turn, I apologize. Alright, I'm running out of time here, but I think you guys can see what's happening. We're getting lots of back and forth. We've got decision points on when and where to use some of the cards that we have. We've got special activated abilities we can use as we see fit. We've got a little bit of dice mechanics and storage mechanics to, if you want to build up your axes for a big attack or extra attacks in the future, especially with this special killing frenzy I could have saved up for. This guy could have gotten extra cards with his ability. And again, I think the game will be much more interesting when you're playing with multiple characters. I mean, even in a 2-player game, you could each choose to play 3 characters each, for example, so that the single skirmish isn't as exciting as it would be if we were trying to maneuver around all different characters around the board. You can imagine having all of these guys floating around each other, some of them trying to gang up on one another, some staying back and doing ranged attacks with their guns or their bows, some of them sneaking up and doing an overwhelming strike of some kind. I think that will get the game pretty dynamic. The artwork for the game, pretty decent. I like the comic-esque kind of graphic novel style to it. I've always loved that graphic novel flair. The item cards stand out with the special glow behind all the items. You can clearly see what item you have at any given time. And there's obviously the dice mechanic. Now, the d20s aren't used for randomness. It's only a d6s that are really used for any random effects. And even that's not totally random. You've got modifiers that you can apply to it with some of your character abilities and your item cards. So, a very simple mechanics for movement, for combat, for getting items, for using items. And that's exactly what the creators were going for, is just a kind of a simplified miniature skirmish game where you can bring it to the table, get your characters out, and just go at what miniature skirmishes were meant to do, and that's battle. So hopefully you liked what you saw of the Fray. It's, like I said, it's going to be live on Kickstarter in May, and lots to offer. So take a look at it and let the creators know what you think, or let me know what you think of the game in the comments of this video. Have a wonderful day.